I'm Heather from booktubes, and today is my April reading wrap up. So, in the month of April, I read 43 books. I DNF'd 16 of them, and so I'm going to talk about 27 today. 1 week ago, I had read 8 books and DNF'd 5. So I went a little overboard, maybe, but truly this is why the numbers discourse never bothers me. Why when I have a low reading month, it doesn't bother me. I know that anytime I feel like it, I can crank out those numbers, right? I can compete with the best of them. I can read multiple books a day every single day if I so choose. I am very capable of that. So if I'm like, I don't feel like reading, or if I do feel like reading, but it's not generating a lot of numbers, I think that's part of why it just never ever bothers me, because I know that I can literally just compete with the best of them anytime I feel like it when it comes to the numbers thing. So anyways, we're going to go in chronological order except for a couple of series where, I'm just going to do the series as one because there are so many things to talk about. The first book that I read was Twitch, which is Steel Bones Motorcycle Club 0.5 by Cate Wells. I gave this 5 stars. I've been avoiding this one like the plague because when the series starts, the hero in this book has already passed and the main character is older, and I just didn't really want to read their love story knowing that it was already over. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Anyway, so this is a Vietnam nurse and a soldier and the PTSD from that, and they find their way back together once they're home, and I did cry. It's a really sweet but hard-hitting novella, which I think is Cate Wells' brand, but yeah, I did finally read this one and I loved it. But it did make me cry. Next, I read The Stonewalls Rejected Me, which is 5 packs 4.5 by Cate Wells. This is another novella of hers that I needed to get to, and I gave this one 4 stars. This one, the pack is very abusive, and there's a lot of abuse in this book, but in the pack as a whole, so I'm not really looking forward to going back to them all that much. But her father's abusive, the pack is abusive. He rejects her in an attempt to protect her because the way that they've been raised, they think that like as soon as you have a kiss, if that's your fated mate, you will know, and they don't know, so it must not be. But like, he wants her more than anything in his entire life, but he's trying to protect her. It doesn't really work out for him. He's a really good fighter. They end up with the pack from the first book, which I really liked, but I was stressed by the setup. I also cried during this one, and I did read both of those Cate Wells the same night. So I read both of those on the 1st of April, and then on the 2nd of April, Avenging Angel, which is Avenging Angel's #1 by Kristen Ashley, came out. I gave this 4 stars. So this is Charlene's adopted kid, Sniff. And he has glowed up and grown up, and he is now called Cap. And I thought that it was his book, but it wasn't the same name or anything, so I was confused. But once I started reading the book, it was him. So if you are wanting their book, this is it. This is Charlene's kid. So this takes place in Phoenix. She's the Avenging Angel, and she is roping some of her friends into it as well. But she had a sister that was kidnapped, and they never found out what happened to her. And you do get closure in this book, and it is not a happy ending. But so because her little sister was kidnapped, one, her family fell apart, but also obviously it really changed her as a kid, and she has figured out who has taken this one little girl. She's pretty sure, so she is trying to rescue her, and that's when she runs into Cap. So as always, it's a mixed bag. There are things I like and there are things that I don't like, which is why it's a 4 star. Her mom committed suicide after her sister was kidnapped, and she is looking into the into missing sex workers. One thing I don't know how I felt about is that you have a lot of the characters from Rock Chick actually leaving Denver and coming to Phoenix, and they're going to be part of this spin-off series, and I don't love that, honestly. I would rather that we kind of had our own characters and we just, you know, got cameos of them. But yeah, it's more of the same. But 2.0. Then I read To Have and Hold Faking Love by Tatum James. I gave this 2 stars. This is a one-night stand where she robs him because her drug addict sister robbed her and she's going to lose her house and everything. He just has cash sitting there, so she takes it. A lot of cash. She ends up pregnant from this one-night stand, and he needs a fake engagement for his family wedding. He's trying to get in with his upper class father's family. And then at the wedding, he cheats on her, but he does kind of change his mind. So he doesn't actually have sex. He just goes, you know, to have sex with the woman. He just goes to a hotel with her and everything. And then they live happily ever after. And that's all I really have to say about that. Not really a fan. Not really a fan. Kind of, yeah. Didn't really like the characters very much. Then I read Artificial Condition, which is the Murderbot Diaries #2 by Martha Wells. I gave this 4 stars. I read this for a vlog that I scrapped. I scrapped 4 or 5 vlogs in April. So this one was supposed to be reading the next book in series that I'd kind of like DNF'd, but they're booktube darlings, and I was like, yeah, let me, you know, see. Everyone says how the series gets even better. Let me see. This is the only book that I finished from that, and it's exactly what I thought based on the first one. You have a introverted, anxiety-ridden, sarcastic robot who finds comfort in his shows and entertainment, which I think is pretty relatable to most of us. It is good. It's just not really for me. Like, I understand why it's so popular. And this was a buddy read with Steph at Novelty Corner. She was doing a reread. She loves the series. She is much more into sci-fi than I am. So again, this is one that falls firmly into her reading taste and is a little bit outside of my norm. But very enjoyable. Glad that she did that with me. Then I read I'll Never Be Your Crown Princess Volume 3. I gave this 3 stars. I loved volumes 1 and 2. This is kind of a dubious consent, explicit romance manga where she is supposed to be the fiance of the prince, and she's like, no, the fiance of the prince has to be a virgin, so I just won't be a virgin. And then, of course, the person who took her virginity was the prince, and she didn't really get out of it. This one was really just introducing a new character. I have something in my eye, God forbid. Makeup on. All right, we're just gonna ignore that. See how well that works out for us. But anyways, this really just introduces a new character and is a bridge for a spin-off series, which is still about these same characters, but it's I'll Never Be Your Crown Princess : betrothed or whatever. So it's definitely not the end of their story. Didn't really love it. Kind of thought it was a bit pointless. Then I reread The Cruel Prince, which is The Folk of the Air #1 by Holly Black. I gave this 5 stars, obviously, because this is an all-time favorite. This is a political fantasy. There is a small thread of romance in here, but not a lot of romance. And my favorite things about this, you might, if I don't scrap that vlog also, you might eventually at some point get some very in-depth thoughts about this book. It's a political fantasy. It's someone who is powerless finding power. It's someone who is an underdog learning to compete with the powers that be and to protect themselves and the people that they love. And it is so quotable. There are so many good quotes in this book. But also, you can't trust the Fae, you can't trust what they're saying, they can't lie, but you absolutely can't trust them, and that's one of my favorite things. I've always been intrigued by that ever since I was a kid. I really like some of the people that our main character is competing with in this book, and I think that really elevates this to another level. And that's all I'll say on that. Then I read Yona of the Dawn volumes 3 through 10. I gave all of these 4 stars. This is a very long running fantasy romance series. It's still just like, you know, the tiniest bit of romance. At this point, she is only like 16, but you have a found family with several guys, and then she's kind of the only girl. But I really like the banter between the guys, especially the love interest that is the bodyguard. He's so sarcastic and so funny, honestly. He's constantly dragging people, and it's really, really clever. So I am enjoying that, and will be quite some time before I read more of it. But all of those were borrowed from Izzy at Happy For Now, and it's one of her absolute top favorite manga series of all time, and was just really, really enjoyable. Then I read Do Me a Favor by Kathy Yardley. I gave this 5 stars. This was a NetGalley arc, and it was a buddy read with Steph at Novelty Corner, Izzy at Happy For Now, Robin at Paperbacks and Planners, Shay at Shay Geeks Out. Was that all of us that had the arc? I think maybe so. I really loved this book. Very sweet. It made me cry. As far as I can tell, this is not in a series with role-playing. And I was wrong about that. So you have a content warning for death of a spouse, caretaking of a spouse, and then he is a single dad, but specifically from a teen pregnancy. She is 46 and he is 41. She is a ghostwriter for cookbooks. Her husband passed a couple years ago, and she's still trying to find her footing. She inherits the house next door to him, and now they are neighbors. He has a support system, everyone on the island does, but particularly he lives with his parents, and his grown children also live with them. So you have a generational family home, which I really liked, and she cannot accept help. Both of her parents are immigrants, I believe. Her father is from Poland and her mother is from Vietnam, and they have just instilled in her, you don't accept favors, you don't accept help. And it is her as a 46-year-old being like, you know, I can respect why you have those values, and I can respect the way that you've been raised and the way that you raised me, and I can also change my mind, and I can decide that it's okay for me to accept help. And he just wants to rescue her, and she's like, you can't just rescue me, you need to put yourself first sometimes too, because I have done that. I have put my significant other ahead of myself for most of my life, and as much as I loved him, I don't want that for you. And their character growth in this book as 40-something-year-olds made me so happy. I really love not only watching them get closer together, not only the humor and the sweetness and the just delightfulness of this book, but also just watching these people in their 40s being like, this is a perfectly acceptable time in life to change our lives, and I'm happy that we're doing this together. I loved it. Then I reread The Blue Castle by Anna Montgomery. This is obviously 5 stars because it's my favorite book of all time. But something that might surprise you all is it is my favorite third act breakup of all time. This is a marriage of convenience because she believes that she only has a year to live and she wants to be happy, and she asks him to marry her. He's like, well, I never even kind of thought about being in love with you, but I've always liked you, and yes, I would be happy to do that. So they have this glorious year together. He is a scoundrel that everyone knows did something awful in another life, and he's hiding out in the woods and, you know, is very disreputable. And she is the prim and proper daughter of the ruling family of the town, but she has always been poor, has always been under their thumb. And watching her just bloom as a 28-year-old, say the things that she's always been thinking, stand up for what she believes is right, live her life on her own terms, thrilled me. The first time I ever read it. And it's Ellen Montgomery. She's the author of Anne of Green Gables. It's very purple prose. It's very flowery writing. There's lots of descriptions of nature, but the characters in this are so delightful. And seeing as it was written 100 years ago, and seeing how she kind of pushes back against some of society's standards and morals, and being like, I don't think that's very Christian or very right. Ex-evangelical in me, and then the like 11-year-old evangelical girl who first read it, yeah, it really spoke to me. And can never be unseated because of that history. And it had been like a year and a half since I read it, so it's obviously time. I did start this at the Silver Wedding Dinner, which is often where I start my rereads of this book, and I did, you know, mostly just read my favorite interactions. I basically have this book memorized, so it's really easy for me to jump around to my favorite parts. Then I read Citadel, which is Kindle number 5 by Claire Kent. I gave this 5 stars. This one, we are with completely different characters. We don't see any of our characters from the rest of the series, but the next book we will end up merging with them. So he is in his 30s and she's 20. And he rescues her and her sister, but he won't stay because he's looking for his brother, and his brother is in one of the gangs that are, you know, roaming the country, abusing people. He leaves her without a word. He breaks her heart. And it's a couple years later and he's back and her sister is taken and they have to try and get her back. And I don't know what to tell you. I don't really foresee any of these books in the series not being 5 stars. It is my favorite dystopian romance by a mile. Then I read The Devil's Sacrifice by Autumn Thorne. I gave this 2 stars. Tracy at Bookend to Bookend told me about this book, and honestly, the way that she described it was very accurate. So she did not go into this being like, you're gonna love it. She was like, I don't know if you are, but like, it was a fun time. So it's literally the devil's sacrifice. She is the virgin sacrifice for her coven. They have a deal with the devil comes and gets her, and then she ends up being his significant other. I did not enjoy the humor in this book, which is part of why I didn't enjoy it that much, but the reason why I finished it is because I did really like the steamy scenes a lot. I thought that they were very fun, so it was a mixed bag for me. Humor didn't really work for me. The steam did. It was a novella. So I don't really recommend it, but if it sounds good to you, you might enjoy it more than I do. Obviously, humor is very subjective. Then I read Jagger by Octavia Jensen. I gave this 4 stars. I got this from an Instagram story, and I cannot remember the account, but I will put it on the screen. This is advertised as a dark rom-com. So this is perfect for if you want dark romance vibes without any of the actual dark romance. So their steamy scenes are very rough and very dark. He is like coming in her window at night and they're hooking up. They are hate banging their way through because basically on Valentine's Day she hit him with her car, ruined his bike, broke some bones. He sued her and got $150,000 in damages, and she's just a regular person, so like she didn't have that money, so she kind of hates his guts, and he probably doesn't hate her as much as he's pretending. So this is perfect for if you want the dark romance vibes without the actual dark relationship and the problematic relationship, but they do kind of hate each other a little bit, and it was very fun. I had a great time. Then I read Desired by Mr. Darcy by J.L. Pearl. These are like 15 pages. I read the first 2 of these. They're 3 stars. They are steamy / paranormal. Pride and Prejudice fanfic, basically. And I gave it 2 because I was like, eh. But I follow Ash Dillon on Twitter, and I'm pretty sure that they've indicated that they're going to have a very steamy Pride and Prejudice retelling soon, so this wasn't really doing it for me, so I'm gonna look forward to that one. I don't recommend them. It's like I said, it's broken up into like a serial type thing. I mean if you want to, go ahead, but it's nothing special. And I'm a bit confused on some of the stuff. Then I read Ravish by the Alpha by Adrian Blue. I gave this 3 stars. This is again, is like under 20 pages, I think. It's basically a sex scene. So it's a dystopian romance. It's a dystopian erotica, really, where Earth has been taken over by these creatures, and the Alpha is huge and green, and he sees her and he keeps her. And that's really all there is to say about that. Then I read Taken by This Destroyer 1, 2, and 3 by Adrian Blue. Again, these are like under 30 minutes each. I gave the first one 4 stars, but overall it's a 3-star. This feels like Thanos fanfic to me. It was in a prison planet. What do you want from me? And then I DNF'd like 5 books. Prison planets as I tried to find one that was good. I probably should have just reread Hold by Claire Kent. But alas, I did not. But anyways, this one, I like the first one the best. It's a prison planet. He's the destroyer of worlds. She's his. There's not really anything else to say. A lot of it does revolve around escaping the prison planet, which is not really what I was there for. I was there for the steamy scenes, and that was kind of it. So I felt like we kind of wasted all of our time that we weren't in one of those. That's fine. That's fine. Then I read Better Run by Alina May. I gave this 5 stars. This is a dark romantic thriller, and I think that is a good label for it. I wouldn't really call it a romance too much. It's definitely more obsession than love. They do end together, but sketchy. It's all very sketchy. So I give this 5 stars. This is dubious consent and non-consent. They kidnap her and they have sex with her a lot. If you like Debcon and if you like non-con, but especially where the guys never hate her, there's 2 guys. They never hate her. They really like her. They're obsessed with her. They're very into her. They're very possessive of her. So very dark overall, but for me, a lot of the darkness that I don't like is like 1, abuse, or 2, where like they hate the main character, and because of that they're purposely trying to hurt her emotionally. I don't like that. This is not that. So this was kind of perfect for me because it's all of the dark content that I like with the dubious consent, but the main character is still into it, and the perpetrators are still into her. Content warnings: there is a on-page miscarriage after forced breeding, and that is like a big, that's like the 3rd act thing of the book. I did like the way that the guys handled that because they could have really upset me at that point, and they didn't. I liked the way that they handled that, but obviously that was a lot. They drug and murder another woman who is a recovering addict by getting her hooked and then having her overdose. They do have a reason for it, but obviously that was a lot. And there is historical childhood essay of both guys and historical overdose of a parent of one of the guys. So, and one of the guys is a cop also, but like an ex-cop, I don't know, but you know. So basically they're not good people, but the only people that they've murdered are people that have harmed them. And then I don't even like really, it's there's a lot of things that aren't really explained, but are just kind of given to you, and you only have that 1 sentence about it, and that's all you know. But like, I don't know, I did not hate the guys. And like I said, if dubious consent is the dark content that you like in your books, like it is for me, then this is basically the perfect book for you. If that's the thing that you're trying to avoid in dark books, this is the worst book for you, because that's really all the dark content that they've got going on. But there's lots of kinks, there's knife play, there's blood play, there's forced bondage, there's primal, there's, you know, lots of games that they play with her. And like I said, she is into it. And then I assume they live happily ever after in their little captive captor scenario playing these games. I don't know, I had a really good time. I put her other book on my TBR. This has been on my TBR since Halloween, basically, and I'm really glad that I tried it, because it did end up being the perfect book for me for this mood. So that's it. That's all of the books that I read in April. You thought we were going to be here longer, didn't you? Nope. Not bad at all, really. On the wrap up, But yeah, so stats wise, a week ago I was 7 books behind my reading goal. I did not get my stats together before this because I am a lahu hazard. All right, so right now I am 9 books ahead of schedule. I've read 75 out of 200 for the year. And then I also did not check my diversity stats, so we're failing on that. All right, 11 were diverse of the 27 that I read. That's not great. Some of these novellas kind of screwed with my stats. Also, something that I always notice affects my diversity stats is that a lot of my most read authors, Kate C. Wells, Clara Kent, Kristen Ashley, are usually not counting towards any diversity when I read their books. And I do read a lot of my favorite authors because a lot of the new to me authors I don't like. I DNF a ton of them or I give them lower ratings. Most of my 5 stars, if you will know this, are from my favorite authors. So, I don't know. That always messes with it. And like, what am I going to do about it? Nothing. So, just gotta keep on trying. May be the month that we hit our diversity goal. We can only hope. We can only hope because so far we are well and truly failing every single month. Usually it's only by like 1 book, but not this time. Thank you, novellas. But it's fine. It's fine. We're fine. Oh wait, no. That's not true. 12 were diverse. And that was either by a BIPOC author or queer main character. That covers everything that I read in April. So there you go. Maybe we'll do better in May. We'll see. Let me know if you have read or want to read any of these. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.